Colonel Justin Hawk Hargrove's weathered hands shook as he read the text. "Stay away, old man. We don't need you." The decorated veteran felt the sting deeper than any battlefield wound as memories of missed homecomings and broken promises crashed over him like artillery fire. Outside the trauma center, where his son's child, Justin's first grandchild, fought for life after a catastrophic accident, medical staff exchanged glances about the irony. The legendary combat medic with specialized trauma training happened to be passing through just when his unique skills were desperately needed. This wasn't chance. It was a result of 18 months of silent reconciliation attempts in one carefully planned coincidental visit. What forgotten language of survival would force father and son to finally heal the battlefield between them? Like and subscribe to our channel if this story touches your heart. And share your own experiences of family healing in the comments below. Justin parked his weathered pickup truck in the visitor's lot of Memorial Regional Hospital. The sterile fluorescent lights of the emergency entrance seemed to mock the gravity of the moment. He sat motionless, hands still gripping the steering wheel, knuckles white with tension. "Get it together, soldier," he muttered to himself. A habit. From decades of self-talk through crisis situations, he'd driven 300 miles after hearing about the accident from his former sister-in-law. 6 hours of churning thoughts and rehearsed apologies, none of which seemed adequate now. The sliding doors parted as Justin entered the bustling emergency department. He spotted Ethan immediately, his son's tall frame hunched over in a corner chair, head buried in his hands. A woman Justin assumed was Rachel, Ethan's wife, sat beside him. Her arm draped protectively around his shoulders. Justin hung back, observing from behind a structural column. Even from this distance, he could see Ethan was a mess and shaven, hair disheveled, wearing the same kind of haunted expression Justin had seen on too many young soldiers. 2 doctors in scrubs walked past, their hushed conversation catching Justin's attention. Unusual presentation. The trauma team is struggling with the pressure response. The head CT showed minimal damage, but the autonomic reactions are off the charts. It's like his body is speaking a different language than the charts predict. Justin frowned. After 30 years as a combat medic and field surgeon, he developed an ear for medical discussions that didn't add up. This sounded familiar, too familiar. A memory surfaced, dust-filled air, the rhythmic thump of helicopter blades, a young private with injuries that behaved nothing like the textbooks said they should. The boy had the same puzzling symptoms until Justin recognized the paternal rare condition that ran in certain bloodlines. His bloodline. Justin watched as a nurse approached Ethan and Rachel. Their faces crumpled simultaneously as she spoke. Rachel collapsed against Ethan, who looked skyward, his jaw clenched against visible emotion. Justin's mind raced back to another hospital, another waiting room the day Ethan was born. He'd been on leave, barely making it back for the birth. 2 weeks later, he was deployed again, leaving his wife Sarah to manage a colicky newborn alone. The pattern repeated for years until Sarah finally left, taking 7-year-old Ethan with her. Last time he'd seen Ethan was at Sarah's funeral 5 years ago. Their argument afterward had severed what little relationship remained. "You were never there when it mattered," Ethan had spat. "Don't pretend to care now." Justin straightened his back and adjusted his jaqueta, civilian one, though he still carried himself with military bearing. He promised himself this visit would be different. This wasn't about seeking forgiveness. It was about being useful, about finally being present when it mattered most. As he stepped forward, Justin wondered if he was already too late. Justin lingered near the nurse's station, his presence unremarkable among the flow of concerned family members and medical personnel. Years of gathering intelligence in hostile territories had made him skilled at blending in, at absorbing critical information without drawing attention. A young doctor in rumpled scrubs approached the station, dark circles under her eyes betraying exhaustion. "The Callahan boy is still unstable," she said to the charge nurse. Pressure's bottoming out, then spiking erratically. We're missing something. Poor kid, the nurse replied. 7 years old and fighting like a warrior. His parents are beside themselves. 7 years old. Justin's grandson Leo. If he remembered correctly from the handful of social media posts he'd managed to see before Ethan blocked him. Dr. Wilson wants another neurology consult, the doctor continued. I'm telling you, this looks more like that combat syndrome I studied during my residency rotation at Walter Reed. The parasympathetic responses are all wrong for standard pediatric trauma. Justin's ears perked up. The doctor was on the right track, but not quite there. What she was describing sounded like Hargrove autonomic response, variation named after Justin's great-grandfather, who first documented the condition in his own family during World War I, that few civilian doctors would recognize it. The condition made standard treatments not just ineffective, but potentially dangerous. Justin watched through the window of the ICU as a team huddled around a small form on the bed. Machines beeped in irregular patterns, and a nurse moved with urgent purpose, adjusting medications. Ethan and Rachel stood just outside the door, their faces masks of helpless terror as medical terminology flew over their heads. Rachel was crying silently, while Ethan's face had hardened into the same stoic expression Justin knew he himself wore when containing unbearable pain. The vasopressors aren't working. A voice drifted from the room. We need to try something else, or we're going to lose him. Justin's breath caught. The standard protocol for this would be to increase the dosage, which would be catastrophic for someone with HARV, before he could stop himself. Justin moved toward the ICU. As he approached, Ethan looked up, his expression shifting from despair to shock to cold anger in rapid succession. What the hell are you doing here? Ethan hissed, stepping away from Rachel. I told you not to come. Justin held his ground. I heard about Leo. You thought what? That you could show up after 5 years and play grandfather, after being barely even a father. Ethan's voice broke. We don't need your brand of caring here when it's convenient, gone when it counts. Rachel placed a restraining hand on Ethan's arm. Ethan, please, not here. I understand why you don't want me here, Justin said quietly, but I need to talk to Leo's doctors, right now. Absolutely not, Ethan snapped. A sudden alarm blared from Leo's room. The medical team's movements became more urgent. BP's crashing. Again, someone shouted, and in that moment, Justin knew he had to act, whether Ethan approved or not. 3 hours later, Justin sat alone in the hospital cafeteria, mechanically sipping bitter coffee that reminded him of field rations. He'd retreated after the confrontation with Ethan, knowing that pushing harder would only make things worse. The last thing Leo needed was family drama disrupting his care. Justin had instead found Leo's attending physician in the hallway and tried to explain his concerns, only to be politely dismissed. Without family authorization, the doctor couldn't discuss the case with him, regardless of Justin's medical background. The clock on the wall read 2:17 a.m. The cafeteria was nearly empty except for a few night shift nurses and an elderly man dozing over a magazine. A tray clattered onto the table. Justin looked up to find Rachel standing there, exhaustion etched in the lines around her eyes. You're still here, she said. It wasn't a question. Justin nodded. How is he? Stable for now. Rachel sat down across from him. Keithan finally agreed to get some food. He'll be down soon. Justin tensed. I can go. No. Rachel's voice was firm. We need to talk, all of us. Something's wrong with Leo's treatment. The doctors keep trying different approaches, but nothing's working right. Justin studied her face. Unlike Ethan, Rachel had no history with him, no years of disappointment to color her judgment. Okay. She looked at him with clear-eyed pragmatism. Ethan told me about your medical background, she continued. Combat medicine, field trauma. I looked you up. Distinguished Service Cross, 30 years of service, specialized in battlefield trauma medicine. That was another life, Justin said quietly. Rachel leaned forward. Earlier, you wanted to talk to the doctors. Why? Before Justin could answer, Ethan appeared, tray in hand. He froze when he saw Justin, his expression hardening. Sit down, Rachel told him. Please. Reluctantly, Ethan slid into a chair, maintaining as much distance as the small table allowed. I don't have anything to say to him, Ethan said, addressing only Rachel. Then listen, she replied. Our son is fighting for his life up there, and the doctors don't have answers. If there's even a chance that your father might know something that could help. That's a big if, coming from a man who couldn't be bothered to show up for birthdays or baseball games, Ethan cut in, finally looking at Justin. What could? You possibly know that board-certified specialists don't. Justin met his son's gaze steadily. Har-Fargrove autonomic response variation. It's genetic, runs in our family, makes trauma responses atypical, especially in children. Standard treatment protocols can be dangerous. Ethan stared at him. What are you talking about? No condition in our family. You had it too, Justin said quietly. When you were 4, you fell from a tree, broke your arm. The ER doctors couldn't understand why your heart rate and blood pressure were behaving oddly. They thought it might be internal bleeding. Ethan's expression flickered with recognition. Mom always said that was a scary night. It was, Justin agreed. I had to explain the condition to the doctors. It's rare enough that most physicians never encounter it. Common enough in our bloodline that military doctors documented it generations ago. Rachel reached for Ethan's hand. Leo's symptoms match what the doctors are saying. Doesn't make sense. The treatments they're trying could be making things worse. Silence fell over the table. Justin waited, recognizing the internal battle raging behind his son's eyes, the same calculation he'd made countless times in the field. Trust or mistrust, act or hold back. Finally, Ethan spoke, his voice rough with emotion and exhaustion. If you're wrong about this, ... I'm not, Justin said. The pediatric ICU waiting room felt smaller at 3 in the morning. The manufactured cheerfulness of its colorful walls at odds with the night's gravity. Justin stood by the window, watching Ethan speak with Dr. Wilson, Leo's attending physician. Even from a distance, he could read the reluctance in his son's body language, shoulders tight, arms crossed, the occasional sharp gesture that betrayed his inner conflict. Rachel sat nearby, thumbing through medical forms, occasionally glancing up to monitor the conversation. When she caught Justin watching, she offered a small, tired nod. Finally, Ethan and the doctor approached. Colonel Hargrove, Dr. Wilson, extended his hand. I understand you have some specialized knowledge that might be relevant to your grandson's case. Justin shook the offered hand. Thank you for considering it, Doctor. To be clear, the doctor continued, I've agreed to listen to your input as a professional courtesy, but all treatment decisions remain with the medical team. Understood, Justin replied. Ethan wouldn't meet his eyes. I'm doing this for Leo, he said, not for you. I know, Justin said softly. That's as it should be. Dr. Wilson led them to a small consultation room. As the door closed behind them, Justin was transported back to a dusty field hospital in Afghanistan. 2003. A young soldier, Private James Markinson, displayed the same puzzling symptoms after an IED blast. Standard protocols had nearly killed him before Justin recognized the familiar pattern. Colonel, Dr. Wilson prompted, can you explain this condition you mentioned? Justin nodded, slipping into the clinical precision that had defined his military career. Hargrove autonomic response variation affects the body's stress response to trauma. It presents with paradoxical vital sign patterns. Pressure drops when it should rise. Heart rate stabilizes when it should elevate. The autonomic nervous system essentially speaks a different dialect than what medical textbooks describe. And you believe this is genetic? The doctor asked, skepticism evident. It's well documented in military medical literature, Justin replied. First identified in a cluster of related soldiers during World War I, my great-grandfather was among them. The Army Medical Corps tracked it through several generations of service members, including myself. Dr. Wilson frowned. I've never heard of this condition. It's rarely seen in civilian settings, Justin explained. The unusual stress responses are most pronounced in trauma situations. In everyday life, it presents as mild quirks than usual. Tolerance for pain, delayed onset of fever, atypical responses to certain medications. Ethan looked up sharply, like how I never got drowsy from cold medicine. Mom always said I was backward. Justin nodded. Exactly. Your mother noticed those things, even if she didn't understand the underlying mechanism. Assuming this is real, Dr. Wilson said, how would it affect our treatment approach? Your current protocol is likely doing more harm than good, Justin said bluntly. The vasopressors and standard sedatives work against Leo's natural compensatory mechanisms. His body is fighting both the injury and the treatment. The doctor's expression hardened. That's a serious claim. Check his response patterns yourself, Justin suggested. Harv creates distinctive waveforms on continuous monitoring. And if you've done blood work, you'll see unusual cortisol and ketocalcitonin profiles. The doctor studied him for a long moment. I'll review his charts with this in mind. If there's merit to your theory, we'll discuss modifications to the treatment plan. After Dr. Wilson left, silence fell over the room. Justin could feel Ethan's eyes on him, evaluating, reassessing. Why didn't you ever tell me about this? Ethan finally asked. Justin met his son's gaze. I should have. There were many things I should have shared with you. It wasn't enough, not nearly enough, but it was a start. This makes no sense, Dr. Wilson muttered, spreading Leo's charts across the conference room table. These patterns shouldn't coexist. Justin leaned forward, pointing to a series of waveforms. That's the Harv signature. See how the pressure rebounds after treatment. It's not responding. It's compensating. 4 hours had passed since their initial consultation. Dr. Wilson had returned skeptical, but troubled enough to dig deeper. Now, with Leo's complete medical history displayed before them, even the experienced physician couldn't deny the anomalies. 2 other doctors had joined them. A neurologist and the young emergency medicine specialist Justin had overheard earlier. Ethan sat silently in the corner, watching the exchange with guarded attention. What you're describing contradicts basic physiological principles, the neurologist argued. No, Justin countered. It's consistent with principles, just not standard presentations. The parasympathetic override creates a different language of symptoms. Colonel, Dr. Wilson interjected. Could you explain this in terms we might better understand? Justin paused, searching for an analogy. Imagine you're listening to someone speaking English with such a thick accent that standard words sound completely different. The language is still English, the grammar, the vocabulary, but the pronunciation makes it unintelligible to untrained ears. That's what's happening with Leo's body. His autonomic nervous system is speaking English with an accent so thick that standard medical training can't interpret it correctly. The young ER doctor leaned forward. Like my rotation at Walter Reed, we saw combat injuries that didn't present by the textbook. Exactly, Justin nodded. Military medicine has cataloged these variations because they appear more frequently in high-stress combat situations. If what you're saying is true, Dr. Wilson said slowly, our current treatment protocol could be dangerously counterproductive. The sedatives you're using are suppressing his natural compensatory mechanisms, Justin explained. And the vasopressors are fighting against autonomic adjustments that are actually trying to protect his brain. The neurologist shook her head. Okay, but without vasopressors, his pressure could crash completely. Not with Harv, Justin countered. His baseline is naturally lower. What looks like critical hypertension is actually his body's appropriate response. When you push against it with medications, you create a dangerous oscillation. Justin turned to the medical chart, translating the patterns into conventional understanding. Years of explaining medical complexities to field medics had made him adept at bridging knowledge gaps. Here, he pointed to a series of readings. This isn't instability, it's adaptation. His body is creating a specialized environment for neural protection. Dr. Wilson's skepticism was visibly wavering. What would you suggest instead? Minimal intervention, Justin replied. Supportive care that works with his natural responses instead of against them, okay? Different sedative options that don't suppress the parasympathetic system. And most importantly, interpreting his vital signs through the Harv lens rather than standard parameters. The room fell silent as the medical team absorbed his words. Tiza could see them mentally reassessing, reinterpreting Leo's condition. Through this new framework, from his corner, Ethan finally spoke. Can you help them understand it? This ... dialect? Justin met his son's eyes, recognizing the first fragile tendril of trust extending between them. Yes, he said simply. I can translate. Night settled over the hospital like a heavy blanket. Justin stood by Leo's bedside, watching the monitors with the practiced vigilance of someone who had spent countless nights guarding against death's approach. The rhythmic beep of machines provided a soundtrack to his vigil, softer now, steadier since the treatment adjustments. Leo lay still, small beneath the hospital blankets, dark lashes stark against pale cheeks. A dinosaur stuffed animal was tucked beside him, its fabric worn with love. The medical team had implemented Justin's recommendations 4 hours ago. They'd weaned Leo off the problematic medications and adjusted the parameters for his vital sign monitoring. Dr. Wilson remained cautious, but willing to try this unconventional approach, given the lack of progress with standard protocols. The door opened softly. Justin turned to see Rachel, entering with 2 coffee cups. Thought you might need this, she said, offering one to him. Thank you. Justin accepted the cup, the warmth seeping into his tired hands. Rachel moved to Leo's other side, gently straightening his blanket. Any change? His readings are stabilizing, Justin replied. The oscillations are less severe. It's a good sign. Rachel nodded, relief visible in the slight relaxation of her shoulders. Ethan is getting some rest in the waiting room. He hasn't slept since ... Her voice trailed off. Justin understood. Since the accident, since their world had been upended. I remember when Ethan was 7, Justin said quietly. He fell during a soccer game, sprained his ankle badly. I was home on leave and took him to the emergency room. The nurse kept asking why he wasn't crying, said most kids would be hysterical with that kind of injury. Rachel smiled faintly. Leo's the same way. His kindergarten teacher once called us because he'd fractured his wrist on the playground and didn't tell anyone until the end of the day. The Harv affects pain perception, Justin explained. It's actually what made many of us good soldiers. We could function through injuries that would incapacitate others. Silence fell between them, comfortable in its shared purpose. Through the window of the ICU room, Justin could see Ethan in the hallway, speaking with Dr. Wilson, though he couldn't hear their conversation. God. He recognized the familiar gestures of medical explanation, the doctor's measured hand movements, Ethan's attentive nods. The scene transported Justin back to another time, another briefing. Ethan's high school graduation day. Justin had received emergency deployment orders that morning. Instead of watching his son accept his diploma, he'd been in a sterile conference room, receiving mission parameters for a classified extraction. Sarah had never forgiven him for missing that milestone. Neither had Ethan. He told Leo about you, Rachel said suddenly, interrupting Justin's memories. Justin looked up, startled. What, Ethan? He told Leo stories about his grandfather, the war hero, about how you saved people's lives in dangerous places. Rachel's eyes held his. He may be angry with you, but he never let Leo think you weren't someone worth knowing. Something tightened in Justin's chest, an unfamiliar ache that was neither pain nor pleasure, but something in between. One of the monitors beeped, drawing Justin's attention. He leaned forward, studying the readout. "What is it?" Rachel asked, tension returning. To her voice, Justin allowed himself a small smile. "His intracranial pressure is decreasing. The brain inflammation is responding." As if on cue, Leo's fingers twitched slightly against the dinosaur's worn fabric. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "Is he waking up?" "Not yet," Justin said gently. "But he's fighting. And now he's fighting with the current instead of against it." Dawn broke over the hospital, painting the waiting room in soft orange light. Justin had retreated here after the night shift doctors took over, his body finally demanding rest after 36 hours of vigilance. He'd found an uncomfortable vinyl couch and fallen into the light. Alert sleep of a soldier in the field, present enough to respond to danger, moved enough to restore energy. A gentle touch on his shoulder pulled him back to consciousness. He opened his eyes to find Rachel standing over him, a small backpack in her hands. "Sorry to wake you," she said. "Ethan's with Leo. The doctors say his vitals are continuing to improve." Justin sat up, muscles protesting. "That's good news." Rachel sat beside him, placing the backpack between them. "I went home to shower and get some things for Leo. I thought you might want to see this." She unzipped the bag and removed a clear plastic folder. Inside was a photograph, its edges worn soft with handling. Rachel carefully extracted it and handed it to Justin. The image showed a younger version of himself in desert camouflage, standing beside a medical helicopter. He was kneeling next to a stretcher, attending to a wounded soldier, while sand swirled around them. Justin remembered the Moment of Rescue mission in Iraq, 2007. The photographer had been embedded with their unit, documenting the medical evacuation team's work. "Where did you get this?" Justin asked, his voice rougher than he intended. "It's Leo's," Rachel explained. "He keeps it in his special box, the one with his treasures. Baseball cards, interesting rocks, a feather from a blue jay, and this." Justin stared at the photograph, unable to reconcile its presence in his grandson's collection of precious things. "I don't understand." Rachel's expression softened. "When Leo was 5, he became obsessed with heroes, not just superheroes, but real ones. Firefighters, rescue workers, doctors. Ethan showed him this picture and told him his grandfather was a hero who saved lives in war zones." Justin's throat tightened. The thought of Ethan describing him as a hero to Leo seemed impossible, given their fractured relationship. "Leo asked 1,000 questions about you after that," Rachel continued. "What kinds of people you saved, what tools you used if you were ever scared. Ethan answered them all." "Ethan knows very little about my work," Justin said quietly. "Researched it," Rachel replied. "Read articles about combat medics, found whatever he could about your unit online." He wanted to give Leo accurate answers. Justin ran his thumb over the photograph's surface. The man captured there seemed like a stranger, now focused, confident, certain of his purpose. "Leo takes this picture to school sometimes," Rachel said, "for show and tell about heroes. He's very proud that his grandfather knows how to save people that other doctors can't help." Justin carefully returned the photograph to its protective sleeve. "I never knew. Ethan is complicated," Rachel sighed. "He resents your absences, but he respects what you were doing during them. He's angry about the past, but proud of parts of it too." Justin understood that contradiction all too well. His military career had been built on such painful duality, the pride of service alongside the cost of absence. The lives saved weighed against the moments missed. "Thank you for showing me this," he said, handing the folder back to Rachel. She shook her head. Keep it for now. I think Leo would want you to have it while you're helping him. As Rachel stood to leave, Justin found himself asking the question that had been haunting him since arriving at the hospital. Why did you accept my help so readily when Ethan was so resistant? Rachel paused, considering. Because I've only known the stories of you, never the disappointments. And because a mother will accept help from anyone saint or sinneref, it means saving her child. She smiled slightly. Besides, Leo has your photograph in his treasure box. That seemed like a sign worth following. The improvement in Leo's condition continued through the morning. Justin worked alongside the medical team, interpreting subtle changes in vital signs that would have been missed or misunderstood without his specialized knowledge. Dr. Wilson had moved from skepticism to cautious acceptance, especially as Leo's intracranial pressure continued to decrease and his neurological responses strengthened. Shortly after noon, Justin was explaining a pattern on the cardiac monitor to a resident when a small sound from the bed drew everyone's attention. Leo's eyelids fluttered. Get his parents, Dr. Wilson instructed a nurse, who hurried from the room. Justin stepped back, giving the medical team space to work as they performed rapid assessments. He watched from near the door as Leo's eyes opened fully for the first time since the accident. Dark brown eyes that swept the room in confusion before settling on the unfamiliar faces surrounding him. The boy's heart rate increased slightly, the monitor beeping in response. Justin recognized the pattern, not distress, but the hard version of orientation response. Leo, can you hear me? Dr. Wilson asked, leaning over the bed. I'm Dr. Wilson. You're in the hospital. You had an accident, but you're getting better. Leo's gaze continued moving around the room, searching. Then he spotted Justin standing near the door. And something unexpected happened. Recognition flickered across the child's face before Justin could process this. Ethan and Rachel burst into the room, their faces transformed by desperate hope. Leo. Rachel was at the bedside instantly, carefully taking her son's hand. Oh, baby, we're here. Mom and Dad are right here. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, visibly overwhelmed by the sight of his son's open eyes. Then he moved to the opposite side of the bed, one hand gently touching Leo's hair. Hey, champion, he said, voice thick with emotion. You gave us quite a scare. Leo's focus shifted to his parents. His lips moved, forming words that didn't quite emerge. Don't try to talk yet, Dr. Wilson advised. You have a breathing tube that's helping you. We'll remove it soon if you continue doing well. Leo's eyes moved from his parents back to Justin, who remained by the door, uncertain of his place in this reunion. The boy lifted his hand slightly, pointing in Justin's direction. Ethan turned, following his son's gaze. That's your grandfather, Leo. He's been helping the doctors take care of you. Justin felt rooted to the spot, unable to move closer. Without invitation, unwilling to retreat from this moment of connection, Rachel beckoned to him. Come say hello, Justin. With careful steps, Justin approached the bed, positioning himself where Leo could see him without straining. Hello, Leo, he said, his voice gentler than anyone in the room had yet heard it. I'm very glad to meet you. Leo's eyes remained fixed on him. The boy made a small gesture with his hand, mimicking holding something flat. Rachel understood immediately. Your picture? Is that what you want? Leo nodded slightly. It's in your backpack, she told him. Grandfather has it right now, but we'll get it for you soon. Leo seemed satisfied with this answer. His eyes began to droop, the brief period of consciousness taxing his recovering body. That's normal, Justin assured Ethan and Rachel as concerned. Crossed their faces. His brain needs rest to heal. This waking period is an excellent sign. Dr. Wilson nodded in agreement. Colonel Hargrove is right. This is very encouraging progress. Let's let Leo rest now, and we'll begin weaning him from some of the support equipment. As the medical team adjusted Leo's medications, Justin stepped back again, allowing the family their space. He was halfway to the door when Ethan's voice stopped him. "Wait," his son said. "Stay, please." The word hung between them, please, so simple and yet so profound, coming from Ethan. After years of silence and rejection, Justin nodded, turning to stand beside his son as they both watched Leo drift back to sleep, the dinosaur toys still clutched in his small hand. Night had fallen again, wrapping the hospital in quiet darkness. Leo had been moved from the ICU to a regular pediatric room, his condition stable enough to warrant the transfer. Rachel had finally gone home to rest properly, leaving Ethan and Justin to share the evening watch. They sat on opposite sides of Leo's bed, the sleeping child between them like neutral territory in contested land. The room was dim, illuminated only by the soft glow of monitoring equipment and the spill of fluorescent light from the hallway. For hours, they had maintained their positions in silence, speaking only when nurses came to check vitals or when one of them stepped out briefly. Now, with midnight approaching and Leo sleeping peacefully, the quiet felt less like avoidance and more like a pause before inevitable words. "You knew exactly what was happening to him," Ethan said finally, his voice low. "You recognized it immediately." Justin nodded. "I've seen it many times, okay? In myself and others with our bloodline." "Our bloodline," Ethan repeated. "All those years, and you never thought to mention this condition that runs in the family." Justin met his son's gaze across the bed. "I have no excuse that would satisfy either of us. I compartmentalized my life military separate from family. It was wrong." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Do you know how many times I thought something was wrong with me? I couldn't understand why I felt things differently than other kids." "I failed you," Justin said simply, "in this and in many other ways." The admission hung in the air between them. Neither inadequate nor excess, just true. Ethan looked down at Leo, gently adjusting the blanket over his son's chest. "When Mom left, she told me it was because you loved the Army more than us." I believed her. "Sarah wasn't wrong," Justin said quietly. "I convinced myself I was serving a greater purpose, that the lives I saved justified the absence from my own family. I told myself you and your mother would understand someday." "Hated you for years," Ethan admitted. "It's for not fighting harder to stay, for missing everything important." Justin absorbed the words without flinching. "I earned that hatred." "Then something strange happened," Ethan continued. "I enlisted, did a 4-year stint as a corpsman." "Never told you?" Justin stared at his son, genuine surprise breaking through his composed exterior. "You served," Ethan nodded. "Needed college money, but I also wanted to understand what pulled you away from us." "What was so important? Did you find an answer?" Justin asked. "I found part of one," Ethan said. "I treated men who wouldn't have survived without immediate care. I felt what it's like to save someone who should have died." He paused. "I still couldn't imagine choosing that over watching my child grow up. It was never a choice I consciously made," Justin said. "Just a series of separate moments, each one seeming necessary at the time, okay? Until I looked up and decades had passed." Leo stirred slightly in his sleep, turning toward his father. Both men fell silent until the child settled again. "I requested a discharge after 4 years," Ethan said eventually. "Met Rachel, went to school, had Leo, decided I'd never miss a single important moment of his life." Justin heard the unspoken comparison, the deliberate contrast to his own choices. "You're a better father than I was," he said. "That's as it should be." Ethan studied him for a long moment. "You're a better doctor than I understood. I never gave you credit for the lives you saved, only blame for the moments you missed. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was acknowledgement, a willingness to see the full picture rather than just the empty spaces." "Thank you," Justin said simply, "for letting me help Leo. Thank you for knowing how." Ethan replied. The improvement in Leo's condition continued through the next day. The breathing tube was removed, replaced with a simple oxygen cannula. He drifted in and out of consciousness, each waking period slightly longer than the last. During one particularly lucid moment, he even managed to ask for water in a raspy whisper that brought tears to Rachel's eyes. Justin had stepped back, allowing the hospital staff to manage Leo's care now that the critical phase had passed. He spent most of his time in the waiting room or cafeteria, available if needed, but no longer inserting himself into treatment discussions. It seemed the right balance present, but not intrusive. He was dozing in a waiting room chair when Ethan's urgent voice jerked him awake. "Dad, something's wrong." Justin was on his feet instantly, the old combat reflexes taking over. He followed Ethan at a run toward Leo's room, where alarms were sounding and medical personnel were rushing in. Dr. Wilson emerged from the crowd around the bed, barking orders. "Get an OR prepped. Page neurosurgery stat." "What's happening?" Rachel cried, pressed against the wall to stay out of the way. "His pressures spiking again," a nurse answered, "and he's showing signs of increased intracranial bleeding." Justin pushed forward, scanning the monitors. The patterns were familiar, but concerning a secondary inflammation response that sometimes occurred with Harv. Typically 48 to 72 hours after the initial trauma. "Dr. Wilson," he called. "This could be a Harv reaction pattern." The doctor glanced at him, his expression tight. "We don't have time for theories, Colonel. We need to get him to surgery immediately." "It's not a theory," Justin insisted. "It's a documented secondary response. Surgery could make it worse by triggering an additional autonomic cascade." A different doctor, the neurosurgeon, judging by his scrubs, joined the conversation. "Is this? Why is he involved in treatment decisions?" "He's the grandfather," Dr. Wilson explained quickly. "He's been consulting on some unusual aspects of the case, but right now we need to follow standard protocol." "Listen to me," Justin said, his voice taking on the commanding tone that had once directed medical teams through chaos. "This pressure increase isn't from new bleeding. It's an inflammatory pattern specific to HARV. If you take him to surgery, you risk triggering a systemic crash." The neurosurgeon frowned. "I've never heard of this condition." "Check his blood work," Justin urged. "You'll see elevated inflammatory markers, but stable hemoglobin. This is inflammation, not hemorrhage." Dr. Wilson hesitated, caught between the established medical procedure and Justin's specialized knowledge that had proven correct before. "We don't have time for this," the neurosurgeon said firmly. "The scans show increased pressure. We need to relieve it surgically before there's permanent damage." Ethan stepped forward, his face pale. "Wait, what my father is saying, is it possible?" "Anything's possible," the neurosurgeon replied impatiently, "but we follow established protocols in crisis situations." "Those protocols nearly killed him the first time," Ethan argued, surprising everyone with his vehemence. "Dad, are you sure about this?" The simple word, "Dad," hit Justin with unexpected force. He straightened, certainty steadying his voice. "Yes, this is a classic secondary Harv response. I've seen it dozens of times. It's a treatment. It's anti-inflammatories and cooling, not surgery." The medical team exchanged glances, the momentum toward the operating room temporarily stalled by the family's intervention. "Run the additional blood tests," Dr. Wilson decided. "We can do that in minutes. If they show active bleeding, we proceed with surgery immediately." As a nurse hurried to draw blood, Justin caught Ethan's eye. The trust he saw there fragile, but present was something he'd never expected to receive again. But as the minutes ticked by and Leo's monitors continued their urgent warnings, Justin felt the weight of that trust like a physical burden. If he was wrong, if this wasn't a hard response, ... He watched his grandson's pale face, the oxygen levels dipping dangerously low, and for the first time in decades, Colonel Justin Hargrove prayed, The lab results arrived with agonizing slowness. Justin stood with the medical team as they reviewed the numbers, aware of Ethan and Rachel watching anxiously from across the room. Inflammatory markers are significantly elevated, Dr. Wilson noted, scanning the report. CRP, IL-6, all the inflammatory cytokines are spiking, but hemoglobin and hematocrit are stable. The neurosurgeon frowned. That doesn't make sense. The pressure increase should correspond with active bleeding, not with heart. Justin explained. The autonomic system creates a paradoxical inflammatory response. The pressure increase is from cerebral edema, not hemorrhage. Dr. Wilson looked up from the report. So what you're saying is actually showing in the labs. If we attempt surgery now, Justin continued, the additional trauma will trigger a cascade of inflammatory responses. We need to treat the inflammation directly and let his natural compensatory mechanisms work. The neurosurgeon remained skeptical. Never seen pressure readings this high without surgical intervention being necessary. That's because you're reading them as if they're speaking standard medical dialect, Justin said. In Harv, the same readings have different meanings. The language is the same, but the accent changes everything. Dr. Wilson made his decision. Let's try Colonel Hargrove's approach. Kaidos, anti-inflammatories, cooling protocol, and pressure monitoring. If we don't see improvement in 30 minutes, we move to surgery. As the team implemented the new treatment plan, Justin joined Ethan and Rachel. Is this going to work? Rachel asked, her voice trembling. Justin said with more confidence than he felt. Leo's body is trying to protect itself, but is speaking a language the doctors aren't trained to understand. This dialect you keep mentioning, Ethan said, is it really that different? Justin considered how to explain. Remember when you were 14 and caught that flu? Your mother was worried because you didn't have a fever, even though you were clearly sick. Ethan nodded slowly. She kept taking my temperature, convinced the thermometer was broken. That was Harv, Justin explained. Your body was fighting the infection, but the fever response was delayed and then peaked much later than expected. To standard medical practice, it looked wrong, but it was just your particular dialect of illness. And Leo has this same dialect, Rachel asked. Yes, it runs strongly in the Hargrove line. I have it. Ethan has it. Leo has it. You should have told me, Ethan said, but the accusation had lost its edge, replaced by something closer to wary acceptance. I should have, Justin agreed. One of many failures I can't undo. Rachel touched his arm gently. But you're here now. That's what matters to Leo. The next 20 minutes passed in tense silence. Justin watched the monitors, interpreting each subtle change in patterns that the medical team might miss. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, at first, the pressure readings began to decrease. It's working, he said quietly. See how the diastolic pressure is stabilizing while the systolic drops? That's the Harv pattern of improvement. Dr. Wilson approached, reviewing the numbers with cautious optimism. Cooling and anti-inflammatories seem to be helping. His oxygen saturation is improving too. His body is recalibrating, Justin explained. Once the inflammatory cascade is interrupted, the natural compensation mechanisms can function properly. The neurosurgeon joined them, his skepticism giving way to professional curiosity. I've never seen a pressure reversal this rapid without surgical intervention. That's the benefit of speaking the right dialect, Justin said. When you understand the language, you can work with it instead of against it. As the crisis subsided, Justin stepped back, suddenly aware of his own exhaustion. He'd been running on adrenaline and military discipline for days now. Ethan noticed. You should rest. We'll stay with Leo. Justin nodded, too tired to argue. As he turned to leave, Dr. Wilson stopped him. Colonel, I'd like to document this condition properly. The medical literature on HARV seems limited to military records. I have contacts at Walter Reed who can provide the research. Justin offered up. This shouldn't remain isolated in military medicine. Too many civilians with the condition go undiagnosed. Like our family, Ethan said, quietly. Like our family, Justin agreed. Justin sat in the hospital's small garden courtyard, phone pressed to his ear. The morning sun warmed his face as he waited for the connection to complete. Dr. Nakamura speaking. Sorry, it's Justin Hargrove, Colonel. The woman's voice immediately brightened. It's been what, 3 years? Still enjoying retirement? More or less, Justin replied. Listen, I need a favor. I'm at Memorial Regional with my grandson. He has HARV, presented after a traumatic accident. The civilian doctors here need guidance. Dr. Nakamura's tone shifted to professional concern. How severe? Critical, initially. We've stabilized him, after some convincing about appropriate protocols. But they've never seen HARV before, and I'd appreciate having your expertise to back mine. Of course, send me the details, and I can arrange a video consultation. Justin looked up to see Ethan approaching across the courtyard, a paper coffee cup in each hand. Thank you, sorry. I'll text you the doctor's information. He ended the call as Ethan reached him. Coffee, Ethan said, offering one of the cups. Hospital brew. So lower your expectations accordingly. Justin accepted it with a nod of thanks. How's Leo this morning? Better. Awake for almost an hour. Talked a little. Ethan sat on the bench beside him. Who were you calling? Dr. Saori Nakamura at Walter Reed, leading researcher on HARV and other genetic variations that affect trauma response. She consulted with Dr. Wilson. Ethan sipped his coffee, military connection coming through. The comment could have been bitter, a reminder of how Justin's military life had taken precedence. Instead, it sounded almost appreciative. First time it's directly benefited the family, Justin acknowledged. They sat in silence for a moment, watching a butterfly navigate the courtyard plantings. You mentioned you served as a corpsman, Justin said finally. Where were you stationed? Afghanistan? Kandahar, mostly? 2010 to 2014. Justin calculated quickly. We overlapped. I was at the Combat Support Hospital there in 2011. Ethan stared at him. You're kidding? No. Strange to think we were in the same place and never knew it. I knew it, Ethan said quietly. I saw you once, across the mess hall. Didn't approach you. Justin absorbed this revelation, imagining his son watching him from a distance, carrying the weight of their fractured relationship amid the already heavy burden of wartime service. Why didn't you tell me you were deploying? He asked. Ethan shrugged. Wanted to do it on my own terms, I guess, without your shadow. I understand that, Justin said. And he did. The desire to forge one's own path, to prove oneself without the influence of a complicated legacy. Did it help, being there, seeing what I did? Ethan considered the question. It helped me understand parts of you. Not all, but some. Justin's phone chimed with a text. Dr. Nakamura can video consult in 20 minutes. We should head back in. They walked side by side through the hospital corridors. The silence between them, less strained than before, in Leo's room. They found Rachel helping their son with a cup of juice, his movements still slow but purposeful. Look who's feeling better, Justin observed from the doorway. Leo's face brightened. Grandpa. The simple word caught Justin off guard. Till now, Leo had been too ill for real conversation, their interaction limited to brief moments of consciousness. Leo, he managed, moving to the bedside. It's good to see you, sitting up. Mom said you're a doctor who knows about special bodies, like mine. Leo said, his voice still raspy from the breathing tube. Justin glanced at Rachel, who nodded encouragingly. That's right, he replied. You and your dad and I all have special bodies that work a little differently than most people's. Is that why the other doctors couldn't fix me right? Leo asked. They're excellent doctors, Justin explained carefully. They just weren't familiar with our particular way of healing. It's like knowing a special language that not everyone speaks. Leo seemed to accept this explanation. Dad says you can call other special doctors who know our language. That's right. One of them is going to talk to your doctors very soon. Dr. Wilson entered with a tablet for the video consultation. As Justin made introductions, he caught Ethan watching him with an unreadable expression. Later, after Dr. Nakamura had walked the medical team through HARV protocols and promised to send comprehensive literature, Ethan pulled Justin aside. Your military connections just saved my son, he said simply. Our military connections, Justin corrected. You served too. Something shifted in Ethan's eyes of recognition, perhaps, of the complex legacy they shared. The threads of service and sacrifice that bound them despite years of distance. Yes, Ethan said. I guess we did that together, in our way. Leo's recovery accelerated over the next few days, with the proper understanding of his condition. The medical team adjusted their approach, working with his body's unique responses rather than trying to force it to standard patterns. Dr. Nakamura's consultation had transformed Leo's care, providing the hospital staff with protocols specifically designed for HARV patients. Justin remained involved, stepped back enough to let the professionals work. His role shifted from emergency consultant to interpreter, helping the doctors understand the subtle variations in Leo's vital signs and responses. On the 5th morning after the crisis, Justin arrived at the hospital to find Leo sitting up in bed, attempting to eat breakfast on his own. The boy's movements were still shaky, but his determination was evident in the concentrated furrow of his brow. Need some backup with that mission, soldier? Justin asked from the doorway. Leo looked up, his serious expression melting into a smile. Grandpa, did you bring your picture? Justin patted his jacket pocket where he kept the photograph Rachel had given him. Right here. But first, let's conquer breakfast. He sat beside the bed, gently guiding Leo's hand as he navigated the spoon through a bowl of oatmeal. Ethan and Rachel had gone to the cafeteria for their own breakfast, leaving grandfather and grandson alone for the first time. Dad says you know special things about my body, Leo said between careful bites. That's right, Justin replied. But your body speaks a special language that most doctors don't understand. But I do, because my body speaks it too. Leo considered this like a secret code, exactly like that. When you got hurt, your body was sending coded messages. The regular doctors couldn't read the code, but I could, because you're a special doctor. Justin smiled. I was a military doctor for a long time. Code we share is something that runs in our family, the Hargrove family. It made me a better doctor for certain kinds of injuries. Leo's forehead wrinkled in concentration. So I have Hargrove powers. The innocent reframing caught Justin by surprise, drawing a genuine laugh from him. I suppose that's one way to look at it. Hargrove powers that make us different from other people. Cool, Leo declared, returning to his oatmeal with renewed enthusiasm. Ethan and Rachel returned, carrying coffee cups and tired smiles. Seeing Justin helping Leo eat, they paused in the doorway. He's got it, Justin assured them, coordinating better every minute. Dr. Wilson joined them, clipboard in hand. Good morning, Leo. How are we feeling today? I have Hargrove powers, Leo informed him seriously. The doctor glanced at Justin with amused understanding. Indeed you do. And those powers are helping you heal faster than we expected. He turned to Ethan and Rachel. I'd like to start physical therapy today. Just gentle exercises to assess coordination and strength. So I'll help him understand what to expect, Justin offered. The HARV affects how he'll experience the therapy-less pain, but more proprioceptive confusion. Proprioceptive? Rachel questioned. Body. Awareness, Justin explained. Knowing where your limbs are in space. With HARV, the signals can get crossed during recovery. He might think he's moving his arm correctly when he's not quite hitting the mark. Ethan nodded slowly, like when I was learning baseball. Coach kept saying I was dropping my elbow, but I couldn't feel it. Exactly, Justin confirmed. I can show you both some exercises that will help Leo recalibrate faster. As they discussed the recovery plan, Justin observed the natural way Ethan included him in the conversation, seeking his input, building on his suggestions. The wall between them hadn't fallen completely, but windows had opened, allowing connection to flow. Later, as the physical therapist worked with Leo, teaching him exercises adapted to his condition, Justin caught his grandson watching him for cues for reassurance. "You're doing great," he told the boy. "Remember, Hargrove powers mean we heal differently, but we heal strong." Leo nodded solemnly, then repeated the phrase like a mantra as he continued his exercises, differently, but strong. The hospital room had taken on the lived-in quality after a week of occupation. Get well cards lined the windowsill. Leo's dinosaur collection had migrated from home to hospital, and the calendar marked with therapy appointments hung on the wall. The crisis atmosphere had given way to the steady rhythm of recovery. Justin arrived to find Ethan alone with Leo, helping his son complete a puzzle designed to improve fine motor skills. The sight of their dark heads bent together over the table stirred something in Justin's chest, the visible proof of continuity, of legacy. "Grandpa," Leo called, spotting him. "Dad's telling me about our special powers." "Is he now?" Justin said. Down the small gift bag he'd brought a book about dinosaurs that could survive in different environments. A subtle nod to their family's adaptability. Ethan looked up, trying to. "I realize I don't actually know much beyond the basics." "I thought we might talk about that today," Justin said, pulling up a chair to join them. "If you're interested." Leo abandoned his puzzle immediately. "Yes, tell us about the cat Hargrove powers." Justin smiled at his grandson's enthusiasm. "It starts with your great-great-great-grandfather, William Hargrove. He was a field medic in World War I. Doctors noticed that he, several of his cousins, who were also serving, responded differently to injuries. They could keep functioning, despite wounds that should have incapacitated them, like superheroes." Leo asked, eyes wide. "Not quite that dramatic," Justin corrected gently, "but unusual enough that medical researchers became interested. They discovered that certain people, including our family, have variations in how their autonomic nervous system responds to stress and injury. The autonomic nervous system controls things your body does automatically," Ethan explained to Leo. "Something like your heartbeat or breathing." Justin nodded approvingly. "In most people, trauma causes predictable responses. Heart rate increases, blood pressure rises, pain signals fire strongly. But in people with HARV, these responses follow different patterns. Pain signals are muted, pressure adjusts differently, and the body prioritizes certain functions over others." "Is that why I don't cry when I get hurt?" Leo asked. "Mom says I'm too brave, but the other kids always cry." "That's part of it," Justin confirmed. "Your body processes pain differently. It's not that you don't feel it too, but not in the same way others do." Ethan leaned forward. "How many people have this condition?" "It's rare in the general population, maybe 1 in several thousand, but it runs strongly in families, especially ours. The military has tracked it for generations because it tends to make effective combat personnel. That's why so many Hargroves served," Ethan realized. "It wasn't just tradition. We were physically suited for it." Justin nodded. "The family has a long military history, partly because of HARV. We can function through conditions that might debilitate others. In combat situations, that's valuable. But it can be dangerous too," he continued more seriously. "Because HARV patients don't show typical distress signals, their injuries can be underestimated. And as we saw with Leo, standard medical protocols can actually work against their natural compensatory mechanisms. Leo had been listening intently, his young face solemn with concentration. So our special power can be good or bad. Most powers are like that, Justin told him. We help in some situations and complicate others. The important thing is understanding how your body works so you can take care of it properly. And so, doctors can take care of you properly, Ethan added, his eyes meeting Justin's with a newfound understanding. Justin reached into his pocket and withdrew a small, worn notebook. I've kept this for years. Notes on HARV symptoms and responses, treatments that work and don't work. I thought you might want it for Leo's medical file. Ethan accepted the notebook, carefully turning the pages filled with Justin's precise handwriting. You documented everything. It became a habit, Justin explained. Each new presentation, each variation I encountered in the field. I kept thinking, someday, this knowledge might be useful too. He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. To the family I left behind, to the son who might need it. Thank you, Ethan said simply, closing the notebook. This will help us take better care of Leah. The boy looked between them, sensing the significance of the moment, even if he couldn't fully understand it. Does this mean I have to be a soldier too? He asked suddenly. Justin shook his head. No, Leo. The Hargrove powers don't decide your path, okay? They're just part of who you are, not who you have to be. Your grandfather's right, Ethan agreed. You get to choose your own mission. 2 weeks after the accident, Leo was finally cleared to go home. The discharge process took most of the morning final examinations, medication instructions, therapy schedules for the coming weeks. Okay. By early afternoon, Rachel was helping Leo change into regular clothes, while Ethan loaded the accumulated belongings into a cart. Justin stood back, feeling suddenly uncertain of his place in this transition. The hospital had provided neutral territory, a purpose that justified his presence. Okay. But now, as Leo prepared to return home, the artificial structure of the crisis was dissolving. You'll follow us to the house, Ethan asked, breaking into Justin's thoughts. The question caught him off guard. I wasn't sure if you wanted to. Leo would be disappointed if you didn't come, Ethan said. He's been talking about showing you his room, his dinosaur collection. Justin nodded, relief washing through him. Then, yes, I'll follow you. The Callahan home was a modest ranch-style house in a quiet suburb, with a well-tended yard and a basketball hoop mounted above the garage. Justin parked his truck behind Ethan's car and sat for a moment, absorbing the normalcy of the scene. This was his son's life, the life he'd built separate from Justin, the home he'd created for his own family. Leo insisted on walking from the car to the house, okay, though his steps were still unsteady. Justin hung back, watching as Ethan hovered protectively beside his son, ready to catch him if needed. The boy's determination reminded Justin so much of Ethan at that age, stubborn, resilient, unwilling to accept limitation. Inside the house was warm and lived in family photos on the walls. A half-completed Lego project on the coffee table. A dog bed in the corner, currently occupied by an elderly golden retriever who thumped her tail in greeting. That's Sunny, Leo informed Justin. She's old like you, but she's still a good dog. Leo, Rachel admonished, but Justin laughed. Fair assessment, he conceded. Hello, Sunny. The dog rose stiffly and came to investigate him, sniffing his hands, before returning to her bed, apparently satisfied with his credentials. She approves, Ethan noted. That's a good sign. Rachel began preparing dinner while Ethan helped Leo get settled on the couch. Justin stood awkwardly in the living room, still feeling like a visitor waiting for instructions. Come see my room before dinner, Leo insisted, already trying to get up again. Easy, champion, Ethan cautioned. How about Grandpa comes to you, and you can show him your room after we eat? Leo reluctantly agreed, patting the couch beside him. Sit here, Grandpa. I want to show you my dinosaur book. As Justin settled beside his grandson, the boy produced a well-worn book about paleontology, flipping to his favorite pages with practiced ease. Justin found himself drawn into Leo's enthusiastic explanations of different dinosaur adaptations. The boy's knowledge, impressive for his age. This one, changed to survive in cold weather. Leo pointed to an illustration. Like our Hargrove powers helped us change to survive, right? That's a good comparison, Justin agreed. Evolution happens when bodies adapt to their environment. Tad says you know lots of science because you were a doctor in the war. Justin glanced at Ethan, who was arranging Leo's medications on the kitchen counter. Yes, I was a military doctor for many years. Were you scared? Leo asked. The simple question deserved an honest answer. Sometimes, everyone gets scared, even soldiers. But being scared doesn't stop you from doing what needs to be done. Leo nodded seriously. Like when I get my shots. Scared, but I still do it. Exactly like that. It's bravery. Doing something even when you're afraid. Dinner was a surprisingly comfortable affair. Rachel had prepared a simple meal that accommodated Leo's still recovering appetite. The conversation flowed more easily than Justin had expected, centered mostly around Leo's recovery plan and his excitement about eventually returning to school. After the meal, Leo insisted on the promised tour of his room, leaning on Justin's arm as they walked down the hallway. The boy's room was a shrine to his interest in Asaurus space, and surprisingly, medicine. A small doctor's kit sat on a shelf alongside toy stethoscopes and bandages. Mom says I might be a doctor someday, Leo confided, because I'm good at science and I like helping people feel better. You'd make an excellent doctor, Justin told him, especially with your special understanding of how bodies can be different. Leo beamed at this assessment. When they returned to the living room, the boy was clearly tiring, his steps even more unsteady. Time for medication and rest, Rachel announced. As Ethan helped Leo prepare for bed, Justin moved toward the door. I should be going. Thank you for dinner. Rachel touched his arm. Hey, Ethan wants to talk to you before you leave. Minutes later, Ethan emerged from Leo's room. He wants you to tell him a story before he falls asleep, if you're willing. The invitation to participate in this intimate family ritual, to be welcomed into their most private space, left Justin momentarily speechless. I'd be honored, he finally managed. As he sat beside Leo's bed, the boy looked up at him expectantly. Tell me a story about when you were a doctor in the war, a not too scary one. Justin thought for a moment, then began. Once, in a place far from here, there was a young medic who had to help a soldier with special blood, like ours. From the doorway, Ethan watched silently as his father's gentle voice filled the room, weaving fact and appropriate fiction into a story of healing, of understanding differences, of finding strength in variation. 3 months later, Justin pulled into the Callahan driveway for his regular Sunday visit. These weekly gatherings had become routine, a rhythm of reconnection that still surprised him with its ease. He gathered the small gift bag from the passenger seat, model kit of a medical evacuation helicopter that he thought Leo might enjoy. Headed for the front door, he no longer needed to knock. That transition had happened gradually, a quiet indicator of his changing status from visitor to family. Today, he found Ethan in the backyard with Leo, the two of them engaged in what appeared to be an animated conversation without words. Justin paused on the patio, watching as Ethan made a series of hand gestures that Leo carefully mimicked. The boy's coordination had improved dramatically since his discharge from the hospital. Though he still attended physical therapy twice a week, Code Justin taught me these when we were deployed, Ethan explained, noticing Justin's presence. I thought Leo might find them interesting. Leo demonstrated enthusiastically. Look, Grandpa, it's how soldiers talk when they have to be quiet on missions. Justin recognized the simplified combat hand signals, basic military communication, designed for situations where silence was necessary. Very good, he told Leo, setting down his gift. Your form is excellent. Dad's teaching me this special language, Leo said. He says it's part of our family tradition. Justin raised an eyebrow at Ethan, who shrugged with a small smile. Thought he should know where he comes from, Ethan said. Both the medical side and the military side. Can you show me more? Leo asked Justin eagerly. For the next hour, the 3 generations sat in the backyard, Justin and Ethan taking turns teaching Leo increasingly complex signals. The boy absorbed them with remarkable speed, small hands forming each gesture with growing confidence. Rachel joined them, bringing lemonade and watching their silent conversations with amused interest. We're going to have to learn this too, she told Justin. Otherwise, they'll be having secret conversations around the house. I'd be happy to teach you, Justin offered, though I suspect Leo will beat me to it. As if to prove the point, Leo turned to his mother and made a series of quick gestures. What did he say? Rachel asked. He said, he's hungry and wants to know. What's for dinner? Ethan translated, laughing. Spaghetti. Rachel signed back, her fingers forming the simple mime for twirling pasta. Leo clapped in delight. You already know some. I might have been practicing a little, Rachel admitted. Your dad's been teaching me while you're at school. As they moved inside for dinner, Justin observed the easy way his son's family had incorporated these elements of his military past into their daily life, not with resentment for what it had taken from them, but with appreciation for what it could give. After the meal, while Rachel helped Leo with his evening exercises, Ethan invited Justin to join him on the front porch. They sat in matching rocking chairs, watching the neighborhood settle into evening routines, dog walkers, children being called in for dinner, sprinklers shutting off as dusk approached. I never thought I'd be teaching my son military hand signals, Ethan said after a comfortable silence. I figured I'd leave that part of my life, our family history, behind. Life has a way of circling back, Justin observed. Using the parts you thought were finished. Ethan nodded. The Harv, the military background, it all seemed like something to overcome, to move past. Okay. Now it feels more like something to understand, to incorporate. Integration rather than rejection, Justin suggested. Something like that. Ethan looked at him directly. I spent a lot of years angry about the choices you made, the absences. I'm not saying that wasn't justified. It was justified, Justin acknowledged. Maybe, but I'm starting to see that it's not the whole story. Ethan gestured toward the house. Leo doesn't see your military service as something that took you away. He sees it as something that gave you the knowledge to help him when he needed it most. Justin absorbed this perspective, his grandson's simpler, more generous interpretation of a complex history. Kids have a way of cutting through complications, he said. They do. Ethan paused. Mom would have liked seeing you with Leo. Despite everything, she always said you were a good man, just not always a present one. The mention of Sarah, something Ethan rarely did, caught Justin by surprise. She was a remarkable woman, deserved better than what I gave her. She got me out of the deal, Ethan said, with a hint of his mother's dry humor. And now, the way things worked out, Leo gets both of us, as a present father and a knowledgeable grandfather. Maybe that's how it was supposed to unfold. As they rocked gently in the gathering darkness, Justin realized they were developing a new language between them, not just the hand signals they taught Leo, but a way of acknowledging the past without being trapped by it, of building a future that incorporated all they had been and all they might become. Thank you for letting me be part of his life, Justin said simply. Of your life. Ethan nodded, the gesture containing everything that still remained too complex for words. 1 year after the accident, the Callahan backyard had been transformed for Leo's 8th birthday celebration. Balloons, shaped like dinosaurs, bobbed in. The gentle summer breeze, a cake decorated with medical symbols and paleontology tools, waited on the picnic table. And a banner proclaiming our hero hung between 2 trees. Justin arrived early, helping Ethan set up tables and chairs for the small gathering of family and Leo's closest friends. The past year had established a comfortable rhythm between them: regular visits, shared responsibilities, the slow rebuilding of connection through their mutual love for Leo. "It's hard to believe it's been a year," Ethan commented as they unfolded the last chair. Justin nodded, glancing toward the house where Leo was visible through the window, proudly showing Rachel how he could tie his shoes without assistance. It's one of the fine motor skills that had taken months of therapy to recover. "He's made remarkable progress," Justin observed. "Thanks to you," Ethan said. "If you hadn't been there, known what you knew, ... double quotes." Justin shook his head. "He would have made it. He's a fighter." "It's that from both sides of his family." Ethan smiled at that. "Still, I'm glad you were there, that you are here." The simple acknowledgement warmed Justin more than any elaborate expression of gratitude could have. Over the past year, they had learned to communicate in these straightforward ways, without the need for grand gestures or dramatic confrontations. The party itself was a joyful affair. Leo, fully recovered and brimming with energy, led his friends through games in the yard, occasionally breaking away to check in with his grandfather, sharing private observations in the hand signal language they had continued to develop. During a quiet moment, as the children enjoyed cake and ice cream, Dr. Wilson arrived, a special guest invited at Leo's insistence. "Dr. Wilson." Leo ran to greet him. "Look, I can run and everything now." "I can see that," the doctor said, smiling. "You've done excellent work with your therapy." "It's because of my special powers," Leo informed him seriously. "Grandpa says they help me heal differently." "Your grandfather was right," Dr. Wilson agreed, nodding to Justin across the yard. "In fact, I wanted to tell you all that we've implemented a new protocol at the hospital based on what we learned from Leo's case. We're now screening for HRV in trauma situations and adjusting treatment accordingly." "You're saving lives," Justin said. "Thanks to your family's knowledge," the doctor replied. "Sometimes the best medicine comes from outside traditional textbooks." As the afternoon wound down and guests began to leave, Leo approached Justin with a carefully wrapped package. "I made you a present," the boy announced. "'Cause it's been 1 year since you came to help me." Justin unwrapped the gift to find a framed drawing, childish but recognizable depiction of 3 figures: a small boy in a hospital bed, a man in civilian clothes, and another in what appeared to be a military uniform. Above them, in careful lettering, were the words, "The Hargrove Men." "That's me, and Dad, and you," Leo explained unnecessarily. "Dad helped me with the spelling." Justin looked up to find Ethan watching them, his expression open in a way it hadn't been since he was a child himself. "It's perfect," Justin told Leo, his voice rough with emotion. "I'll keep it, always, okay?" As the sun began to set, and Leo played with his new toys on the patio, Ethan joined Justin at the edge of the yard. "I've been thinking," Ethan said without preamble. "Leo should know more about our family history. It's not just the Harv, but everything where we came from, the people we've been." "I'd like that," Justin replied carefully. "I don't mean just stories. I mean real connection." Ethan took a breath. "Sarah's parents are gone. You're the only grandparent he has. The only link to our past." Justin waited, sensing there was more. "There's a vacant house for sale, 3 streets over," Ethan continued. "Nothing fancy, but solid. It's close enough for regular visits. Not so close we'd crowd each other." The offer hung in the air between them, not just a suggestion of proximity, but an invitation to permanence, to integration into their daily lives. "Have to sell my place," Justin said slowly. "Make some arrangements." "Of course," Ethan nodded. "Just something to consider." Justin looked across the yard at Leo, who had noticed their conversation and was watching them with curious eyes. The boy made a quick series of hand signals of questions, an invitation to join him, Both men responded simultaneously with the same gesture affirmation. Connection. Promise. Leo beamed, satisfied with their answer, and returned to his game. Eve wants to learn more signals, Ethan said. The real ones, not just the simplified versions. I could teach him, Justin offered. Teach both of you, if you're interested. I am, Ethan said. There's a lot about our shared heritage I never let myself explore. Things I pushed away because they reminded me of the hard parts. Justin understood. For years, Ethan had seen his father's military service only as the force that had taken him away. Now, he was beginning to see it also as the foundation that had given them the knowledge to save Leo, the connection that bridged their years of separation. We speak the same language, Justin said quietly. It's not just Harv, not just the hand signals, something deeper. Ethan nodded. It took us a while to recognize the dialect, that's all. As the evening stars appeared overhead, 3 generations of Hargrove men gathered on the patio, the youngest teaching the oldest a game he had invented. The middle one translating between them when words or gestures failed. Different dialects of the same family language, finally understood, finally spoken together. What forgotten language of survival would force father and son to finally heal the battlefield between them? The answer had come not in words, but in presence, not in dramatic declarations, but in quiet Sunday afternoons, not in erasing the past, but in translating it for the future. Like and subscribe to our channel if this story touches your heart. Share your own experiences of family healing in the comments below.